Afternoon, everyone. Hi, how are you? How'd you enjoy Wish? My name is Anthony Brasnican, the entertainment writer for Vanity Fair, and thank you for joining us for our Wish post-screening Q&A. Let me bring out our guests tonight. We have the director of the movie, Chris Buck, the other director of the movie, Fawn, Veerasunthorn, songwriter Julia Michaels, songwriter Benjamin Rice, producer Peter Del Vecho, and producer Juan Pablo Reyes, Lancaster-Jones. So you just got back from a world tour with the movie. I'd like to, since that's fresh in your mind, I'd love to start with just, what do you notice about the different audiences around the world and their reaction to Wish?
Well, let's see, if we can get over the jet lag of it all. Well, the response has been terrific. I mean, people all over the world have been just loving it. I mean, we obviously Disney fans everywhere. And this was made as a love letter to Walt Disney and all the incredible artists that worked with him. So they're feeling the love, which is fantastic.
And it was so fun to hear this movie in several languages. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, I understand everything they said. Because I know it so well. Oh, this is not in English.
Did you guys make that world tour as well, or did you stay stateside?
I got to go to the premiere in London, and it was really beautiful. And just seeing so many people's reactions to it and seeing more and more people fall in love with it is just so amazing.
What's the origin point of Wish? I know that a lot of development goes into each of these animated films, but can you tell me what the starting point was?
I think back in 2018, I was also still working on Frozen along with Jen, Frozen 2, when Jen became the chief creative officer at Walt Disney Studios, and she realized that the centennial was not that far off, and whispered into Chris's ear, what kind of movie?
I don't know if she whispered, I think it was more yelled in my ear. It's coming!
Yeah, it's coming, and start thinking, because what kind of movie could celebrate the 100th anniversary?
So you really wanted something that was sort of like a commentary on, or a summation of the 100 years of filmmaking?
It's more of an emotional tribute to Disney, right? Like, because we were asking ourselves, what does Disney mean to us? And it was words like joy and hope, and then wishing on a star came up. So it was more of the emotional venue that we were taking.
And you make allusions to some of the tales that Disney is known for, but they're not direct references. I mean, except in the credits where you show like a lot of the classic characters. What was your philosophical approach to how you allude to the stories that people love, that they grew up with, that they've shared with their own kids or grandkids?
Yeah, I mean, I think people think we had a list ahead of time of all the nods we wanted to put in there. We did not. We just loved Disney, and so we wanted to get the story pretty solid before we started layering in all the nods, and everybody joined in. It was all the artists, all the departments. They had their own ideas. You know, suddenly we're working in a scene in the villain's lair, and people are like, okay, what can we put in here? We can put, the poison apple, we can put that there. We can put this, we can put it. So it just became, it was really fun for everybody to share sort of their favorites.
But it seems like you didn't want to make it, like a cameo palooza, right? Where characters keep popping out.
We put a lot of energy into making this an original story, right? Tradition of Disney is to make a fairy tale that's always kind of rooted on existing material. We thought that would be fun to create something totally new. I think Walt would have done that himself for the mark of the centennial celebration. So when we talk about the concept of wishing, it's so universal, but we know we have to be specific about this film that offers something new to the audience. So when we talk about Asha and her journey and what her wish is, we really love that her wish is a generous one. When she has an I want song, it's not a want for herself, it's a want for the liberation of her community to be able to pursue their dreams and go to their fullest potential. Things like that, that it's just all existing within this standalone story.
You anticipated my next question, which was about the "I Want" song. You just mentioned that it's called "This Wish," but the "I Want" song is a tradition in Disney animation. It's the part of your world type song that the heroine or hero sings. I wondered if you guys, Julie and Benjamin, if you could tell me about creating that song. And it sounds like you knew you needed a song like that in that tradition, but it's also important to break tradition too when you create something new. So what was that combination?
Yeah, so the first song that I got to write for this film was "This Wish." I was actually given like a very small paragraph on what the movie was going to be about, and I had to write it based off of that. And the synopsis was basically, a young woman lives in this beautiful kingdom, ruled by a very handsome king, and protects all of the wishes of the people in this kingdom. And Asha sort of finds out that he is not as wonderful as people think he is, and thus starts this beautiful journey for herself in saving people's sort of autonomy. And it just sounded like a very selfless act to make Fawn's point. And I just thought that the song should come from a selfless standpoint. So lyrically, that's sort of where I started. And I said, Ben, help me please. Make the music beautiful. And we just sort of tried to make it feel classic and feel very woven into Disney's history, while also making it feel as modern as possible. I mean, I come from the pop background, so pop has always been very ingrained in me and who I am, and so I think we tried to bring a little bit of that into here.
I think it was just such a pleasure to try to bring such a special song to life, and hopefully we did that. Yeah, I'm just so grateful.
Yeah. Well, that
We got to.
Thank you so much.
it sounds like, yeah, you can't have an "I Want" song that's too much about what I want. It has to be about something bigger, right?
I mean, you can.
Good. Very sympathetic.
Yeah, but I think to everyone's point, this film is so beautiful. I mean, it was made really corely by 12 people in a room for the last 3 years that just absolutely love Disney and what it represents. It represents hope and believing in something, believing in yourself. And I just think that's such a beautiful message, and I think that's what this wish is about. It's about hope.
Well, how did you two work together? Like, just what is your process when you're creating these songs? Ben helped me is such a Luke Skywalker thing to say.
Well, Julie and I have worked together for nearly a decade and been very, very close friends, best of friends for the same amount of time. So I think it's knowing how to understand each other. We kind of have our own second language with each other. And what Julia's vision is, I try to just kind of help support that and find chords that she can kind of write to. And we just discuss it. We talk about what she wants it to be. And we were given such good information from all the filmmakers up here. And we sit in a room together, make jokes, we laugh,
Lots
we cry.
of jokes. So many jokes.
And just, we find it together. And we usually can know at the same time that we have something special, and then that momentum carries us forward.
I also sometimes just sit in complete silence, and he has absolutely no idea what's going on in my mind. And I'll be like, okay, what about this? And then I'll sing at all costs. And he's like, yeah, great, that's great.
She'll say, this is going to be terrible. And it's fantastic. We just kind of go from there.
Thank you, yeah.
Was it always going to be a musical film from the very beginning? Was that a given?
Oh yeah. I mean, to celebrate the 100th anniversary, we figured it had to be a musical. All the great Disney music over the years, so it was ingrained. I mean, luckily, you know, Julia said yes to us because we were looking for that with so much of this, you know, and the look, of course, harkens back to our legacy, but also is contemporary. Same thing with the music. We wanted that to do both, as Julia was explaining too. So yes, always a musical.
And how did you choose Julia and Benjamin? I assume that a lot of thought goes into the composers that you hire for a musical.
Well, we have a great musical director. We have Tom McDougall and Matt Walker, and they guided us to them. And you've worked with Tom before, yeah.
Yeah, I worked with Tom on Ralph Breaks the Internet. So I actually met him back when they were working on Zootopia, and I was just like, I'm a huge Disney nerd. Please let me know if there's anything I can do here. And he called me for Ralph Breaks the Internet, and he was like, oh, would you want to do a sort of pop reimagination of a song? And I was like, yeah, I'll try. He's like, great, it's called Slaughter Race. And I was like, okay, challenge accepted. And
It's kind of like an I Want song about Grand Theft Auto.
Yes, exactly. And then he called me in 2020 and was like, we're working on a new film. I'm not going to tell you what yet, but he was like, obviously we have our greats. We have our Alan Menkins and our Lopez's and you know, our Lin-Manuel Miranda's, but we want to try something new. Would you be up for trying? And I was like, yes. And then obviously with that comes, oh my gosh, there are so many greats that came before me, and the pressure to fulfill Disney and Disney's legacy with music was obviously very overwhelming, but it was the most beautiful 3.5 years of my entire life. And
You guys did amazing.
I
love
like
the
it.
music in this film.
And you guys know.
I know you both of you come from, you know, the pop world, but the way we tell the story in this film, you know, we look at the story, it's not like we stop and sing for a second. Welcome to Rosa set up who Asha is, her love for the community, her belief in this kingdom and the king, right, at all cost. Further that story in an unexpected way and bring Asha and Magnifico together for a second. You thought like, oh, great, she's winning this interview until she sees things very differently. That leads into this wish. So all this, I think we call it like the tentpole, the emotion of the story. You know, we plan it out. When the emotion gets so intense, you cannot talk about it. And you guys brought all those emotions up to the forefront.
I think that's one of my favorite things that Ariana says all the time, that each song is a different color of Asha's personality, you know, and when you introduce her, she's like dancing and shows her movement. But then you get to the fight song at the end and you get to see another part of her too.
So you mentioned your work on Ralph Breaks the Internet, and Benjamin, you have a long history with Lady Gaga, and you worked with her on A Star is Born and The Shallows. What does your previous, for both of you, what is your previous movie experience? What from those experiences prove useful in your work on Wish?
Well, this was my first real experience being in the room with people and watching the story evolve and change and writing songs that are so specific to this world that these beautiful people created. And I don't think I could have done it without the collaborative process. I mean, even when it came to songs like This Is the Thanks I Get, it was all of us talking in a room together, talking about the characteristics of this person and the essence of this person, and then we would go back and be like, okay, how do we do this sonically? How do we make this villain likable, but also you hate him at the same time? And you know, I don't think I could have done that without the support and just the collaborative effort of everybody in the room.
Yeah, but that song was great because you came back and you just went. So I wrote a song about a narcissist.
I've dated a lot, so I know what they sound like.
and there's a great sense of humor of Magnifico in that song. And at the time, we create backstory of this person. He's charming, he's powerful, he can be villainous. We didn't know he could be funny. And when that song comes, we're like, oh, he can be funny. And Chris Pine shows up and just take that even beyond that. He really did.
So Benjamin, is there anything you'd like to say about your previous work in movies? And
Well, they handled it all so well. I'll only add that I've never worked on anything quite like this, and I'm thankful that Julia brought me in to help her do this. The Star Is Born was it was similar in ways, working with Gaga and Bradley Cooper, because we were making the songs as Bradley was directing and as the movie was being kind of shaped in at the same time as the song. So it's similar in that way, but nothing quite like this. Getting to work with this team in a microscopic fashion, going through the script, then us going back and just, what is this going to be from scratch? It was similar, but this, nothing quite like this.
is it a very different process writing just a general song, like putting some emotion or some thought, some concept into music versus writing from a character's point of view?
Yeah, I mean, for me specifically, I've written songs with artists for the last 10 years of my life, and I think with artists it has to be very specific to their life, but also still very relatable. And then this was us fully creating people, giving people thoughts and feelings. I remember when we were writing Knowing What I Know Now, and we were like, all right, this is Amaya's moment. What's Amaya gonna say? And we were going through all these things. We're like, but Amaya wouldn't say that. And we're like, what are we talking about?
We would laugh because we're treating these as real people.
Yeah, but
Looking
then,
at pictures.
over time they become real people to you, and you put a little bit of yourself into everything that you do when you're a writer. So yeah, they're a little bit different, I would say.
What's that like, Benjamin, writing a song from a character's point of view? You do have to kind of get in, it's almost a bit of a performance in the writing itself, right? You're imagining what the character would do, perceiving how they would react to something.
Well, I think it's just like Julie and I always talk about how it's nice that there's an open canvas. Not completely open. There's certain things that we're being instructed to try to follow or to try to include. But yeah, it's an open canvas as far as what would these characters do. We're laughing at what would Queen Amaya do? We're like,
But also just having full creative freedom
Exactly.
to do whatever. And we used to say that it kind of felt like going into the principal's office when we would have a new song, because we were like really nervous if people were gonna like it or not. And we always said it was a telltale sign that it was a good one if Jennifer Lee cried, or if she was like really happy. We're like, oh, okay, we can breathe.
How would you present? How do you present a song? Do you go in and sit down at a piano, or?
No. We would do these meetings every Thursday, and we would all sit down together, and we would talk about what songs need to come next, or who should have a song, and then we would go and figure out what that is, and then we would
just come in on Thursday and literally hit play.
Yes.
This is what we've come up with.
And our hearts would be literally on the floor. But yes.
We always joke that our favorite song was whichever one you brought in. Because we fell in love with each of them. But truthfully, the fact that you both are so collaborative is really what made it work, because oftentimes you inspired the story and the story inspired you guys, and it was definite back and forth.
100%.
Yeah, well, Chris and Fawn, can you tell me about how the music may have shaped the story and your direction and the way you tell the story?
I mean, all the time they would come in with an idea. We loved it. It's so funny to hear your perspective of how horrifying we were.
Not y'all.
I don't think that's what they said. But.
I just go to that place. No, I mean, we loved it. We loved everything about it. And they would come in with ideas, and we say we could put that in here. The thing is, when we get a song, we have to visualize it. So we are listening very closely, and there were back and forth and say, well, we want to try this here. Can you rewrite a lyric that puts it here? I would say that one of the craziest songs was the I'm a Star, and we had all the animals singing. And so what we did is we had a studio full of, 24 singers, 24,
28.
28, all in separate booths, but we hadn't cast anybody yet. So we're going, okay, well, you try okay, we've got 2 squirrels here. The squirrels try this. Now they're going to have the mice go over there. Okay, we have the bear over here. The deer, no, the deer, move the deer. Can you try this? And it was a day full of that, of insanity. And
Still don't have a turtle.
you still got to work on the turtle. I mean, so it's just, it was such a, I love working on musicals. I love working with songwriters. And they really do. They inspire us so much throughout.
Yeah, and for a song like This Wish, I think what really is so special about that song is that it put a stake on the ground for the character of Asha. You really feel the sense of this is a girl who feels frustrated and not able to turn anywhere, right? And have to find courage within her to speak out what she really wished for. And this movie is about that. Like when you have a wish, you have to say it out loud. Chris would say, sing it out loud.
Sing it out loud. And I will just, Fawn's going to be humble here, but she actually storyboarded This Wish while she's directing.
So that
No
means
small
like,
feat.
I listened to this song 1,000 times. She'll see me pace around my office just like trying to get into it. But that really helped us to, think about the character who speak out first and foremost for herself and what she really wants. And as the story progresses, she becomes this advocate for the whole town. That she learns it's not enough just to have a wish in your heart, right? And you say it, you have to go on this journey to to inspire everyone to be able to say what they wanted as well. So that's really, like the through line of that arc was really solidifying in that song.
You'd already mentioned Magnifico in his song, This Is the Thanks I Get, and that he's a narcissist. But it's a really upbeat, fun, playful song. I don't know, when he started singing it at least, I kind of related. I'm like the dad of 2, and I guess my question is like, am I a bad father?
Well, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, that one was one of our favorites, I think, to do. We had so many meetings about that one, and in our early talks, we had talked about how he was kind of sort of this all-American dad, like probably drove a Subaru and like when
I was like, I actually do drive a Subaru.
cooks with his family on the weekends, and he just was this very lovable human being. And then when you really got down to the nitty-gritty of his character, you realize that he was actually very controlling and possessive. And I was like, I know those guys. And I think when people think Disney villain, they think like, outwardly ominous and dark. And, when we talked about him, he wasn't that. He wasn't outwardly villainous. And so I think we were like, well, maybe we should sonically make this his character. It should be fun and upbeat and funny and charming. And then as the song sort of progresses, you start to really see his true nature. And he slips into this really dark place, and then he tries to get himself out of it. He's like, wait, no. I'm the good guy, remember? And by the end, you realize that he just really can't control who he really is. And it was such a fun challenge to do.
Benjamin, anything you want to add to that?
No, we just made ourselves laugh trying out dad jokes and like how could that kind of go into something. And I'm a father of 2 as well, so that's one of my favorite things to come up with. No, it was just like she was saying, for it to be so fun and upbeat initially, for the wheels to start coming off by the time you get to the bridge. And Julia was telling me, like, I really want it to feel really unhinged at this point. How can we do that? So it was fun to try to take the song from how it starts in the beginning and really take it dark and then kind of pull the curtain back and then get him back to where he kind of started, where you're kind of laughing at him and with him, you're not really sure. That was really fun to do together.
And the narcissism angle it makes me think of his ultimate fate, which we can talk about because you guys have already seen the movie. He disappears into a mirror, which I think thematically kind of fits. In fact, one of the Easter eggs seems to be a little flash of the magic mirror from Snow White, right?
You caught it.
Anybody else see that?
We're not saying anything. I know Disney fan. Y'all can connect whatever you want to connect. Because we're happy with that. We love reading the stuff on the internet. Yeah, so.
It didn't seem to me that the intention was to say, this is the prequel or something like that, or that it's some shared universe. It just seemed like little emotional nods.
We're just having fun. I made a mistake many years ago. I connected Tarzan with Anna and Elsa, and it has not died since. So I'm not connecting anything to anything. I'm staying out of it this time.
Are Tarzan?
Oh no, they're not. Tarzan is not their brother. I'm okay. We're done.
Right, you're changing.
I know.
That hope.
I know. See. Okay, never mind.
Peter, what's going on with Frozen 3? Is there a Tarzan link? So you guys have talked a lot about your collaboration and the teamwork that went into this. Obviously, that's another theme that nobody does anything, accomplishes anything great alone. And I wondered, as the producers of this, if you could talk. One of the main things that a producer does is they put together the team, and what that process was like for you. What were the critical components? What were the hardest parts about producing a movie of this scale?
Well, the easiest part was putting the team together, because everybody at the studio, we're all Disney fans ourselves, and everybody wanted to be a part of this film. I think the difficult challenge was the directors and our production designer, Mike Giamo, wanted a particular look of the movie, a watercolor kind of storybook look, but they wanted to be able to, go in and dimensionally go through the lens. So we knew what the goal was. We weren't quite sure how we were going to do it, but that's what I love about working at Disney. Everybody, through their passion, so the artists working with technology, just kept building on things that we had done before with shorts like Far From the Tree and Paperman and Feast. But how could we do something like that and scale it up to a full feature? So again, much like the story, where we don't know exactly what the story is going to be when we start, we didn't know exactly how we were going to achieve it, but we all held hands and achieved something together.
And all of that came because we wanted it to be a fairy tale. So it came from storytelling. The purpose of the look was supporting the story. And so we looked organically at our first fairy tales like Pinocchio and Snow White, and that's where Mike and you all got inspired by those watercolor backgrounds, and then you got to see them at the ARL, at the Animation Research Library, even did some tests of Asha on a background of Pinocchio. So it was very fun to go through that process.
Does the story that you're trying to tell lead the technology, or do you find tools that make you say, oh, here's something new and cool we can do?
I think everything comes from story. First and foremost, everything we do is in support of the story. So, like Juan Pablo said, once we knew it's a fairy tale, we're saying, what was the look we do it, and then working with technology and the artists, pushing each other to develop the tools necessary.
The last thing I want to ask you is about the little star and the development of that character. And again, I know these things go through a lot of workshopping and thinking and versions. Where did it start? What were some of the iterations? And how did you end up at the cute little person or creature that we see in the film?
I'll start. You would think when you look at Star, you're like, that's a no-brainer. That was easy. We started with a shapeshifter, came down to Earth, had different voices. It just did all sorts of different things, and then the story just
Like more of a genie from Aladdin type character?
yeah,
with
that was
voices?
one thing. We're like, let's try not to do that. I mean, try to do something original. So we, but the story just kind of wanted it to be just this wonderful ball of energy, again, hope, inspiration, all that stuff. And so we, one of our story artists we had all the story artists play with it. It was one of the best story pitches we ever had. It was one of the craziest. But ended up on that design, ended up on that very simple design. And for us, it was great because it sort of symbolized animation 101, which is basically the bouncing ball. That's where we learned squash and stretch. And then our character designer put this beautiful heart-shaped mask around Star's eyes and mouth, which evokes Mickey Mouse. We looked at Mickey and a lot of the expressions for that. And then the last thing we did was to make it more animation friendly was to take away the voice. So it was all pantomime. So the animators could do what they do so brilliantly, and that is to give that character all these emotions.
Is that a hard choice to make?
let's not give it a voice. Let's make it like a silent film character, a little Chaplin-esque.
I think initially it terrified some people, but then they realized, I'm like, well, this is peak animation, right? And we don't have any reference of the voice or personality. We are creating that. Everyone's holding hand from story artists into animators. And at the end of the day, I think people, as they realize, like, oh, this is what we get to do, it got really fun. People request scene with Star. And different people were trying to draw a star. At some point, Star has this is a butt cheek that people keep drawing, and I'm like, it's not gonna happen. No, like perspective. You want to know where that star is turning, don't you?
I never thought about whether stars had those. Yeah, I'm a little stunned. But stars are also pointy, and you made them nice and soft and round and cuddly.
Yeah, because to us, when we come up with this form, that's when the story start to kind of solidify. And star represents this energy, creative energy almost, that people have. I think you would understand when you have an idea and you want to follow through with it. Sometimes you stay up all night like, oh, I should really do that, right? It's this character who represents that. And usually those thoughts doesn't have really solid, concrete voice of what you need to do. Star used to talk and tell Asha what to do, and we thought, what fun in that journey to pursue your dreams. I think it's better when there's an energy that pushes you out of your comfort zone and just push you into the pool. And you're like, oh, gotta learn how to swim now. And then Asha learns that she can swim. I think that's a more fun of a journey to go on to.
But Valentino cannot swim.
Very afraid of sharks.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here at this post-screening Q&A. Thank you all for sticking around. Everybody make a wish.